Hello my bookish besties and welcome into another video of Bookmas. I thought in today's video it'd be really fun to discuss all of the books that I DNF'd this year as well as my least favorite book from each month. So without further ado, let's go ahead and visit my DNF graveyard. The first book I DNF'd this year was called Dragonfall. It is by L.R. Lamb. This book I decided to DNF because I like books about dragons, but this one was kind of going in a weird direction that I didn't like. From what I remember, like, there was some sort of relationship between the guy and the dragon or something. I don't remember. I DNF'd this back in February. I was super excited to read it and I just didn't like it very much. Yeah. I don't really like books that have that vibe. But anywho, the second book I DNF'd this year was called Dungeons and Dragons: The Fallbacks, Dealing with Dragons. So I read the first book, I think last year. I actually have it right behind me. It was called Dungeons and Dragons: The Fallbacks, Bound for Ruin, and I actually really liked this one. I thought it was super fun. As someone who really likes Dungeons and Dragons and Baldur's Gate and kind of that realm, it was a really fun read that, you know, it followed the traditional lore while having its own story. But again, I don't fully remember what it was I wasn't liking about the second one because I did DNF it. From what I remember though, it like teased a storyline, like we were supposed to go hunt down this dragon and instead they were all just kind of like hanging out. Like it just felt very slice of life instead of adventure, which is fine. I didn't care for it very much, so I don't know. I'd be curious to like maybe try it again, but it's kind of one of those just like fun fill in the want of Dungeons and Dragons book needs. It's not a like I'm not super invested in it. So sorry if I keep looking over here. I have a Goodreads, like, what are those called? Shelf that I created with my DNFs, and I am reading them off and kind of like looking at my order. So if I keep looking this way, that's why. But the next one I DNF'd was the Griffin Sisters Greatest Hits. This is by Jennifer Weiner. This one, again, I don't really remember why I DNF'd it, but I do kind of remember I just wasn't really vibing with the story or the writing style. Like, I went into it thinking it was going to be similar to like Daisy Jones or like The Parent Trap or something kind of where it's like, you know, these two sisters, they have some drama, etc. And I don't remember what necessarily happened. I just know I was so bored, so I stopped. And then next we have Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab. I just don't really care for historical fictions, and that's pretty much what it boils down to. I tried reading this 2 or 3 different times. I would maybe go back to it. I started it on audio both times. Maybe physically reading it, I'd like it more. Not sure though. I don't know that I'm the target audience. But, like, it wasn't bad. I love her writing. It just wasn't my story. Next we have I Who Have Never Known Men. This is by Jacqueline Harpman. Same story. I just don't really vibe with that kind of book. I had also just finished The Grace Year, I think, when I read this, maybe. And I don't really like those kind of stories. That's about all I got. I'm sure it's phenomenal. Maybe if I did the audiobook, I'd like it, but physically reading it, I just didn't care. Next we have this Princess Kills Monsters by Rye Herman. I think that's how you say their name. I really, really loved this book when I started it. It was kind of like funny and unique, but then like the further I got into the story, I just wasn't gripped any longer. So yeah, I just stopped reading it. And then last but not least, we have Roll for Romance by Lenora Woods. I thought I'd really like this because some of my favorite books are the, oh, you can't see them because of my tinsels. They're right up there. The Dungeons and Drama and the Datings and Dragons, that kind of series. I really, really like those. And like I said, I do love Dungeons and Dragons, but this one I didn't like it as much as the other one. So kind of just stopped. Again, I read these Dungeons and Dragons themed books kind of as like a, you know, fun way to do both of my hobbies, but I wasn't obsessed enough, so I just kind of quit. I'm not a huge romance person, so if I'm not super into it, I'll just stop. But that is all of the books that I've DNF'd this year. I mean, I have some from last year, but those are irrelevant at this moment. But if you do want to hear them, I sometime can give you guys the full list of every book I've ever DNF'd. According to my shelf, I only have 23 total, like, since I started reading, so it's really not that bad, actually. But anywho, without further ado, let's go ahead and discuss my least favorite books from each month. In January, my least favorite book I read was The Midnight Feast. This is by Lucy Foley. I loved the guest list, and then all of her books I've read after that have just kind of like gone downhill for me. I wouldn't necessarily say this was a bad book, but I did do it on audio, and so I don't know if it was a audiobook error or if I just wasn't vibing with the story, but like, it wasn't bad. It's just, of the banger books I read in January, this was my least favorite. I think I rated it 3 stars. It's okay. It's just, like I said, I loved the guest list, and this just didn't live up to that hype. And then in February, my least favorite book was Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. Again, not necessarily a bad book. Just like, of the books I read, this was my least favorite. Again, I think I rated this 3 stars. I liked it though. Like, I thought it was pretty fun. Like, a lot of the issues that other people have, I don't have. Like, I don't really care about it not being the spiciest thing you've ever read in your life. My major issue was the main character. I think it would have been better if, instead of it being like that weird love triangle thing, if it was just, what was her name? Penny, I think. If it was just Penny and Lucas's story, I would have really, really liked it. But I didn't like Scarlett and Lucas and Penny. Like, I didn't like that Penny was like, okay, I'm over you, Lucas, like, go be free. And then she kept acting jealous, and he, like, still cared about her a lot. Like, I don't know. That really kind of took me out of the story, and it made our main character pretty insufferable. So, that's February. And in March, my least favorite book was The Storied Life of A.J. Thickery. This is by Gabriel Zevin, I think is how you say their name. But yeah, I am going to hold your hand when I say this. This book was boring. It was so boring. Like, I feel like, again, I just don't think I'm the target audience for it. I don't really care about cozy stories like that, but it was basically about a guy who, like, runs a bookstore, and if I remember right, he, like, adopts a daughter or something like that, or maybe it's an animal. Something happens, and then he falls in love with his bookseller, and they, like, he lives on an island with his daughter or whatever, and then the bookseller keeps coming, and you follow kind of their romance, I guess, if I even remember correctly. But I just thought it was so boring. I do think the movie maybe would be good. Like, it's the kind of story that I think would be a good, cozy, like, Nicholas Sparks style movie where it's like you just kind of put it on for vibes, but I didn't like reading it. Okay, for April, my least favorite book was Watermoon. I think I rated this 3 stars, but, like, looking back, I feel like this should be like a 2 or a 2.5 because I don't remember a single thing that happens. Like, I remember the vibes being kind of cool. Like, I think the main character's dad owns a antique store or something like that where you can time travel back to your memories or something like that. Yeah, he owns a pawn shop. Yeah, even reading this summary, I don't remember a single thing that happens. I will say, though, I did listen to a majority of this, so that could, again, be part of the issue. But from what I've heard from other people's reviews, like, my opinions aren't necessarily super unique. Like, the vibes are immaculate. Like, I love this cover. I love that you can take it off and, like, turn it into origami. I think that is so cool. The marketing on this is just, like, top tier. There's a QR code in here, and I don't know what it's to. I wonder if it's for a video on how to make the thing. Anywho, yeah, like, the aesthetics of the book are really nice, but I don't remember a thing about the story. Okay, and then in May, I read this book called Retreat. It's basically about a girl who, like, gets mistaken. She, like, gets hired as this lady to be an interior designer, but she's not actually an interior designer if I remember right. Like she's a con artist or something like that, and she shows up to the house and people on that island think it's her, like think that she's the famous lady, and so she like goes undercover, like she takes over the lady's life. And then there was like a bunch of plot twists and crazy stuff that happened. I feel like I need to read my review for this actually, because so my review says I liked this book very much until about 75% through. This book kind of moved a little fast at the end for me. That being said, the ending itself worked for me, I think. And then I said Liz reminded me a lot of Neil Caffrey from White Collar. And then I said that's about all I can tell you about the characters though. The plot wasn't bad, it just was also so obvious from the beginning. And then once the reveal happens, it changes in a way that makes me think the author believes we're too dumb to do some inferring. I don't know. I just have so many frustrations with this book, TBH. I liked it until I didn't. For a while, it was giving the first season and a half-ish of Jane the Virgin, and it was so exciting, but yeah. Anywho, I don't think I would recommend it or reread it. I don't know. I feel bad because, like, it wasn't bad. It just was so obvious. So yeah, apparently that's what I thought about it. Like I said, I don't really recall. I remember the vibes kind of being vibing, but then, like I mentioned in my review, the author, like, kind of acts like we're stupid, so I didn't like that. Okay, this one's gonna hurt some feelings, I think, but my least favorite book I read in June was The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. This book is so heavy. Anywho, I thought the best part was the beginning where she was in the monastery. Once they go off on their little adventure, I got the ick. I didn't care for Rory. Is that even his name? I think his name is Rory. There's some smut scenes in here that is like some of the worst, weirdest spice scenes I've ever read. Like, this is maybe spoilers, so you can skip ahead to my next review. But she is considered a religious figure, technically. And during their spice scene, there's like a scene where he says something like, you know, I'm gonna worship you like a church or something. Like, there was just some sort of phrasing that just, it got me. And then I don't know that I care about Bartholomew, which is a lot of people's, like, for a lot of people, that's like the character. And then, yeah, I don't know. I just found the plot super obvious. Like, I wasn't surprised by a single thing that happened. That being said, I do think I'll read the second one just because it's only a duology, but, like, I don't know. The worst book I read in July was Expiration Dates. This is by Rebecca Serrell. Again, similarly to Lucy Folly, this is an author that I read in 5 years when I first got back in reading, and I loved that book. But then every book I've read since then has just kind of gone downhill for me. This one is about like a girl. It's very similar to that movie Timer with Emma Caulfield. Basically, this girl like receives slips of paper that says like how long her relationships with people are going to last. And I don't necessarily mean to spoil this book for you, but I'm gonna. So again, skip ahead if you would like. But basically, near the end, she like gets a slip of paper about a guy, but then it's later revealed that the guy, like her best friend, had written that paper like as a joke or something, and like he's actually the soulmate, and he just wanted to see like what she'd do or something like that. And it kind of just like felt like this whole book was a waste of time, which is crazy because it's literally under 300 pages, I think. So yeah, it's 258. So like, it was okay. It's just once I got to the end, like I said, it felt like I had wasted all this time because I got invested in this other relationship just to learn it's like fake or whatever. In August, the worst book I read was Daughter of the Pirate King. This was one of those books that I just like could not stand the female main character, and I also didn't really care for the plot from what I remember. I rated it 2 stars. Again, it's kind of one of those books I just wiped from my memory. I feel bad though because I met the author recently and she seemed really lovely. I just didn't like your book. I'm really sorry. Oh, I have such a big knot in my hair right here. Oh, Anywho, yeah, I don't remember. I remember in my review, though, writing something about, if I remember right, there's a scene where the female main character is basically like she has to remind us in every single scene, oh my gosh, but I'm so strong and independent, but I can't let any of them know because I'd blow my cover or something like that. I talked about this in another one of my YouTube videos. I'll try to link it if I can find it, but I didn't care for that. I don't like that kind of vibe. But anywho, in September, the worst book I read, I had a couple I could have chosen, but this one is like probably gonna be changed to a 1 star because the more I think about it, the more I dislike it. That's Hot for Slayer by Ali Hazelwood. It's a novella, so it's only like 150 pages, but it, I think, suffered from being a novella. Basically, it's about a vampire slayer and a vampire who, they're like destined to kill each other, but they fall in love. And it would have worked, I think, if Ali had kept to like traditional vampire lore. Instead, she's like trying to create her own lore, and like 100 of the 150 pages are dedicated to explaining like how this magic or whatever works, instead of like developing our characters or developing their relationship in any sort of way. And then they just like get together, and it just didn't work for me. I like think it could have been good if we had seen some of that development. Yeah, 2 or 1 stars. Like I did not like it at all. And in October, my least favorite book was Nocticadia. That's by Carrie Lake. I, again, just don't think I was a target audience necessarily, but also, like, I think I was. Like, in the beginning, I was loving it. Like, it was kind of spooky, it was gothic, it was atmospheric, there was a little bit of a mystery going on. But then by the end, like, it just kind of turned into, like, a dark romance almost. And which, to be fair, I knew it was a dark romance, right? But I guess I just didn't anticipate it playing out the way it did. And things just got really spicy really fast. And yeah, I just felt like we lost the plot a little bit. Because like I said, in the beginning, there was a cool like mystery, like, you know, what's this mysterious disease? How are we going to fix it? And then it turned into like, oh, well, I don't really care about that. Let's just bang every chapter. No, thank you. In November, my least favorite read was Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. This is by Brandon Sanderson. I think this is genuinely my only Brandon Sanderson I've ever read that I didn't really like. And I think for me, the reason I didn't vibe with this super much is I just love Brandon's action scenes, that the romance in this didn't particularly work for me. Again, I do have a full video explaining my thoughts on this. Feel free to check that out if you would like a more in-depth, you know, thoughts. But I will say overall, like, I didn't really care about our female main character. And then I felt like the story was just kind of silly, goofy, haha. Like, it was more vibes than anything else. Like, it was very slice of life. I don't know. Like, it wasn't bad. It wasn't my cup of tea. It's labeled as a romantasy. And I like romantasies. I don't think I like this one. Okay, and I know December's only half over, but of the like 4 or 5 books I've read so far in December, my least favorite is Good Spirits by B.K. Borson. I do have a full vlog of me reading this book that I basically just posted if you'd like to read that. To recap though, it's not that I disliked this book, it's just one of the 4 or 5 I've read, it is my least favorite. I have to pick one. But also, similarly to Yumi, actually, it just kind of moved fast. Like, they went from kind of hanging out to all of a sudden being like, oh, I think I'm in love with him. And I needed a little bit more. Just a little bit more. Like a little tension, a little something. But yeah, again, not bad. It's just, of all the books I read, it was technically my least favorite. But anywho, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I hope you really enjoyed it. Be sure to let me know down in the comments below what books you might have DNF'd this year, or even just your least favorite books that you read this year. Even if it's just 1 or 2, I would love to know. I love the drama. But anywho, like I said, thank you so much for watching today's video. I really, really hope I catch you in the next one, and I will see you there.